Hello and welcome to Cheap to Charming with me, Johnny. Today, on part 2, we're going to be looking at radiusing the grip, improving the wood to metal fit, so a little bit aesthetic, a little bit practical, but mostly it's one of those rather tedious jobs that takes an hour, but it's totally worthwhile, because if your hands feel good around that gun, you should be more comfortable and hit more things, and just give you a better feel. Just a warning, I do have a little bit of a cold, so you might have to bear with me, sounding a little bit more husky than usual. Without further ado, let's get the files out. What we're actually going to look to do is actually improve, not the radius of the grip, but the wood to metal fit around the headwork. And that will obviously lead into the radius of the grip accordingly. Not that there's actually anything wrong with it, it feels quite good in the hand. What we're going to do is just increase the quality of the finish, see where that leads us. If that leads us into putting the palm swell on, that probably won't happen today. But we're just going to look at actually, the wood to metal shouldn't have this nasty big gouge. So we're going to start by taking that out and just refining this as best possible. And to do that, it's going to require files for the meat, and then we're going to get some chisels and just work around the headwork, and then essentially see where we stand in terms of general ergonomics. So we're just going to work real slow and with a file. Actually, we're not. So this is what we're going to do to start with, is I'm just going to take a chisel to it, and call me a lunatic, but using as much control as you can, or as I can, we're just going to remove some wood. I was going to use a file, but actually it's just not the correct tool for the job. We could do this out of the stock, but with the action off, but I'm not going to, so there. Make sure your chisels are le sharp, as they say in France. Corel.
Corel. Is that free, is it, or is that you got to buy it?
Yeah, you got to buy it. Yeah, it's not the most expensive, it's about 70 quid a year. But it's better than 50 quid a month that a lot of the real expensive ones are.
I know it's going to work. Someone else bought it. You've sat in an office, you've never seen the job, they don't know.
Obviously be very careful not to try to actually attack your metalwork. All you're looking to do is make it look pretty. I mean, this is kind of the unnecessary semantical part of the project. But it is something you can do at home with relative ease. I'm not sure we're taking a lot of meat off actually on the action. We'll obviously take the action off in a minute. And get ourselves somewhere a little bit more handy. Oh yeah, no, so as long as you're not actually affecting the radius of the grip there, we're probably alright. Because it's not awful in the fingers. A bit nasty around the thumb and the palm, but it's not awful in the fingers. Right. So as you can see, we've actually removed quite a lot of meat. We're now almost in line with the metalwork. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this off the action, and we're going to give it a little sand up just to make it look a little prettier. And once that's done, we're going to start looking at the palm swell and the thumb radius. There you go. And they are apart. I'm going to put this to one side. We're almost done with that actually in the grand scheme of things. And work on the gun. So here we have it. And essentially what we're going to try and do now, just I say try, is we're just going to make this, just smooth this around a little. To do that, we're going to put it in some soft jaws, very soft jaws, given that it's wood, and give it some very sweet loving. So I know I said that with the soft jaws, it actually doesn't matter if we damage the wood because we're going to do some work to it anyway, but good practice. Sorry for the general silence, by the way, guys. I'm absolutely knackered. I've been at work for quite a few hours and it's been absolutely mental. I wasn't planning to do this today, but I want to get it out for you today, so file. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on a little bit back here. There's a couple of less than smooth spots, but I'm actually, generally speaking, quite happy with it. I'm going to get some sandpaper and a sanding block, and we're just going to take some of that roughness out and then see where we stand in the hand. Obviously start at a not too high grip. You're not looking to remove much material here, you're just looking to remove marks. So this is 240. I'm going to start with 240 and trying not to undo some of the nice radiusing you've done. Smooth across the top. As you go, I'll just move you in. As you go, you'll see new marks appear, or new marks, and you'll see your target. All you're looking to do, really, is to get rid of those. But say, feel it, look, little by little. Don't go all out raging bull. That's bad. Water can help quite a lot. I like at the beginning to go dry and use more sandpaper. Sandpaper is a expendable commodity. There is a time that everyone who knows me will know that I'm actually really quite tight and will make sandpaper last 10 times longer than it really should. So, a little water can really help extend the life of the sandpaper, but at the beginning, before we get down to much finer grit than 240, little by little. Plus, certain walnut, when you put water into it, will develop this nasty black spot. As you can see here, I've actually got oil and crap leaking out of the wood, or all manner of stuff. So, going dry actually isn't the worst thing in the world. Looking as we go down here, actually, you can see the quality of the internal headwork. It's kind of piss poor. Would be a good way of putting it. It's very rough, but again, these stocks are churned out by CNC, like just about every mass manufacturer. It's not just unique to cheap guns, and just obviously the quality of the cutting bits, the sharpness, the speed at which they do it. There's machine made and machine made, right? So this is the shoe shine method, and we're just going to look to. It sounds stupid. We're going to change up to a 1200 grit all of a sudden. We're just going to put a top over top, and that's going to give us a real glisten on any high spots and really present our low spots to us. And to do that, we're going to go cross grain. We'll use a shoe shine method. Don't wrap too much because you're going to start wearing out your checkering. Essentially, you're just looking to burnish across the top of where you've been, and it will give you a real indication of any low spots. That fine dust sort of settles in holes and stands them out massively. It's very interesting. Amazing what imperfections you see in the wood as you go, actually, and these cheaper bits of walnut really are not always less quality, but often less quality. With regular occasion, it really doesn't hurt to take your action and actually put it in. I'm just going to give you a real indication of how you're going, what you've got left to move. In this case, quite a substantial amount, actually. However, we're going in the right direction. We are going in the right direction. Actually, we've got a fair amount left to remove, so I can be a little bit less fearful. Certainly around this tighter headwork, when using a soft sanding block, you'll end up with rolling your ends in. This can be avoided by putting a little bit of emery around a file instead, which is probably what I'll do at this point, just focusing on certain bits. Don't be scared to get a pencil out and actually just mark areas where you want to remove more, which is perfectly acceptable. Pull that out. We're back where we were. So we are actually going to use a pencil here, and we can put a little mark to say that we've got meat to remove there, and if we like, with a very sharp pencil you can actually draw lines through underneath and into the back side. We've got too much there, we've got a little bit there we can afford to remove, and all you're doing essentially is just colouring it in lead, so that you know once that lead's been removed, you're inside your area. There's many ways to skin a cat here as well, but this is the way I'm choosing to show you today. As you can see, we're just taking our lead off. Always get down, and remembering, like we said last time, that actually all guns are about line. Use your eyes, because your eyes are really good at picking up shapes, or at least a trained eye can pick up shapes very well, or a shape that you like. So what I'm going to do, just going to wrap this around this file here, just going to drive it across the top. And it's like super controlled sanding. Remembering that we're also going to do up this woodwork. The edges don't matter too much because we're actually going to come back and more than likely go around with high grits on this gun anyway. But we're looking to remove file marks here. I probably should just use the chisel for the whole thing, but I was being impatient. And time is money, especially with the cheap to charming. So at a level, I'm going to show you a little thing here. You don't have to do it, but you just lick your finger, yeah, you like this, and you wipe it up. And all of a sudden, actually, what this will show you is the water will pick up raised grain. We're talking just a little bit, but it's an instant way of getting some water, obviously, is in your mouth. If you're contagious with germs and you're worried about dirty hands, like a vast amount of our viewers, don't do that. Use a wet wipe or some Vaseline or something. So this will raise the grain, and a lot of this wood is now kiln dried, and I'm going to try and zoom in and show you what I mean by raising the grain. Also, it will show up imperfections. So, as you can see, the whole thing is actually really rough now from what it was, which was quite smooth. That is just where the water gets into the wood and swells it, because it's cheap kiln dried crap with no density. But that's fine. Better quality wood obviously doesn't raise grain quite as much, mostly where it is dried properly, but also where it's a lot denser. So that's it, there you go. Grain raised. We'll do that later on in the project, but it's amazing just how one little lick's worth of spit can do such harm to a dry bit of wood. We've got that warm bit of 240 here still. I'm going to dry that over the top, because actually there's quite a lot of meat to remove on top here. And all you're doing now is you're drive that over. I'm going to use some 400 now. And you're looking to get back that smooth finish. You can obviously do both ways to remove a lot, but a bit like a file, if you move it in one direction, it's just going to keep your feel kind of smooth. And a little bit of control goes a long way, actually. There's nothing wrong with having good control over what you're doing. Little high spot there. Obviously, when you start getting towards where you want to be, always just keep sanding with the grain, not against it. Because you'll get right to the last part of this project and you'll see a little bit of sanding, a couple of cross grain marks that you've missed, that is now not too late to go back to, but again, relative time investment to the project. That's beautiful. Back to 1200, burnish over the top. 1200 you can go cross graze with, especially worn 1200, because it doesn't really mark the wood. Alright, we're quite happy with that. I know this is minor in terms of the grand schemes of this project. Look at that, there we go. Look, we now have what we're actually going to do. Are we going to do it? I'm trying to decide whether it's entirely worthwhile and how charming we want this gun to be. In reality now, what we could do is actually chase along the metalwork very, very slowly with this chisel once I'd given it another sharpen, and really meet up the wood with the metal. However, we're not going to do that because the wood, in its infinite lacking of integrity, is more than likely going to go badly wrong later. So we might come back and revisit this. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and have a little look at the thumb radius and the neck radius. Imagine this. I mean, it's the equivalent of closing your eyes, is to just not pay attention to where you put your hand. Slap your hand on the gun with your trigger on your finger like that. So your palm is in the right place and your trigger is in the right place, and then wrap your fingers round and your thumb. The fingers on this gun actually fit very nicely and the radius is good. My hand is missing something about there, and a palm swell, which is why they put palm swells on guns. Obviously it would be more versatile without, but I don't know if we'll put one on. We'll see how we get on, I suppose. And my thumb, actually, it's not nice, it doesn't. My thumb wants to fall in, or my hand needs to be pushed out. And there's a bit of a spiky lump on top of this gun that we're going to want to remove. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to put the stock bolt back in, bolt this back together. I'm going to look at actually just increasing the quality of the radius on that thumb. And that's probably more than enough for this week. And then slap your hand on and wrap it round. Don't worry about all of this, we're going to sort this out later. What we're looking for is just comfort in the hand. And to start with, that's going to involve just removing this nasty spiky ridge. And to do that, we're going to get a rasp and just smash a couple of millimetre off and see how it feels. Rather use files than rasps if you're feeling lacking confident. Obviously the ability to use tools like second nature comes from the use of tools. So if this is the first time you've picked up a hand tool in 20 years, 30 years, or just the first time ever, start with less aggressive and work your way up until you've got the perfect control and the Germans have a word, fühlen, a word for like a connective feeling. We don't have a word that's quite that works well to describe that. The connective feeling between yourself and a tool, yourself and something else. There you go. There you go. How's that for an excitement? Obviously the Germans on here will tell me I'm wrong, which I'd be glad to know. There's a lack of smoothness where it should be smooth. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't matter. The lines don't match. The curve is wrong, which is why we're doing what we're doing, I suppose. Again, always just get your hand, put it on there, and you can suddenly feel my hand actually coming into play that little bit better. Bang! It's just that little bit has made that whole grip, both that little bit more comfortable. Still a bit more, but not too much more with this general tool of aggression. However, what we're also going to look at now is the first step in the line of shape. Look at the way this nose drops off. It's really just ugly. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take this back and sharpen it up, essentially. We're going to start working on the general shape of the gun. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all of that. This is not the best looking gun in the world, is it? Well, I think it's not going to be the best looking gun in the world. I think there is what I said last time, something about rolling something in glitter or something equally as relevant. Obviously with a rasp, the harder you press, the more you take, the more crossways you go, the more coarse your brakes, the straighter you drive a rasp, the cleaner it cuts. Knowing your tools. Always a miraculous thing to do. Remove, look, remove, look, remove, look. It's just getting better and better. Sometimes it's worth mentioning that actually looks over or practicality over looks is a worthwhile thing. But you have to always draw a little parallel between doing it right and then realising that if I take this back all the way to there, this grip head is going to be literally the longest grip neck in the entire world. So we don't really want that, unfortunately. But we're going to make it as best we can. Ta-da! I think, for the sake of it, on a gun of this level, we're not going to put a palm swell on. I'd love to cut this out and inlet a piece of wood and stuff and rechecker it, but I think on a gun of this level we're going to forget about the palm swell and turn it into something a little bit, hopefully, more all-round. So here we have it. The thumb now wraps over the top that much nicer, and it's just about making yourself comfortable. As we said, we're not going to put a palm swell on this one because the actual relative effort would be insane. Much like the last, we are going to put some sandpaper over here. However, what we're going to do probably next week is look at the lines of the stock. I say that probably next week. We'll probably inevitably think of something different to do to this gun next week. But part of that is going to be taking a lot of meat off this gun, so I don't want to just spend a lot of time polishing this one area before moving on. So I think you'll agree this week we've improved the look of the gun, certainly made the whole flow of the lines from the trigger guard, around the grip and from the neck into the actual top of the comb here just that little bit more elegant, a little bit more confident, and more importantly that little bit more comfortable for the hand. And next week, well, we'll see how we feel. Many thanks for watching, guys. Take care, goodbye, and we'll see you next time.